This is episode number 31 of Hitting for the Cycle. That's Ben Kruse. I'm Ryan Touhey. Recording a little later this week, but we're ready to go. How are you doing, Ben? I see you're wearing Celtics wardrobe on this baseball talk.
Yeah, as much as I love baseball, Ryan, this has obviously been a big point this week with the Celtics and Bruins back-to-back days, like almost every single week, every single day this week. So, as much as baseball is my first love, it's been kind of more my focus with the playoffs and stuff going around. But I'm doing well and excited to talk some more baseball with you this week.
As am I. You got your Celtics and Bruins going for you. I've got my Knicks and Rangers going for me. So
Yeah.
us would love for our cities to get multiple championships this summer, and we'll see what happens. It's been an interesting NBA and NHL playoffs, but it's also been an interesting week in the world of baseball, and we're going to get into it. But before we do, of course, we just want to remind everybody to follow Hitting for the Cycle on Facebook, X, and Instagram at HFTC ETB. Follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Follow our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network, as you can see right here in this graphic down below. And finally, listen to us on whatever platforms you get your podcasts.
Yep. This show is also presented to you by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together, where everyone's perfectly synced up. Players can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite views for Q&A. Playback makes sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite sports teams and players, and watching the commentators communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule.
All right, so we're going to get into it. Unfortunately, we're going to begin with some sad news. Yesterday, former Major League Baseball third baseman Sean Burroughs sadly and unexpectedly passed away at the age of 43 in Long Beach, California. He was coaching his son's Little League team, and apparently he suffered full cardiac arrest and sadly passed away. It's a very sad story. Burroughs was a baseball player in Major League Baseball from 2002 to 2006. He took a couple of years off because he had some personal issues that he had to resolve, which he did and overcame them. He returned to play baseball in 2011 and 2012. But yeah, this is a very sad story. So I just want to quickly give my condolences to the Burroughs family. And it's a very sad story to hear. And rest in peace, Sean Burroughs. He was 43 years old.
Yeah, that's tough. I really didn't know much about this story until you just told me. So, but I definitely remember Sean Burroughs from his playing days. He played for the Padres. He played for the Diamondbacks. So yeah, that's obviously really unfortunate. 43 years old. Yeah, just my condolences, my prayers go out to his family and everybody that is affected by this awful tragedy. And yeah, uh, it just sucks really for just everybody specifically. And rest in peace to Sean Burroughs.
Yeah, I remember him. He was a baseball player in my favorite baseball video game growing up, All-Star Baseball 2005. He was the leadoff man for the Padres in that video game. So when I heard the news, I was like, oh, man, I knew who he was. I know many modern baseball fans today probably don't know who he is or who he was when he played. But it's very sad. And again, rest in peace to Sean Burroughs. Now we're going to get into some of the other topics today. This is a big one, obviously. Ippei Mizuhara, obviously the former interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, has pleaded guilty. He's pleaded guilty to one count of bank fraud and one count of bank fraud and one count of tax fraud. Mizuhara, I'm reading this off of ABC News. This is courtesy of Mark Osborne and Meredith Deliso of ABC News. The maximum sentence of bank fraud that he's facing is 30 years, and the maximum sentence of tax fraud that he's facing is 3 years. So in total, he's facing a maximum of 33 years behind bars. And obviously, this is yeah, he's screwed to say the least. He's absolutely screwed. But yeah, I mean, goes to show that you shouldn't engage in this kind of stuff. This was completely asinine of the guy to go to this extent. I When this whole thing happened, um, the plea agreement says Mizuhara will be required to pay the full restitution, which is $16,975,010 to Otani. So it's pretty crazy that it was this extreme. When this news first broke a couple of months ago, I was just I kind of chuckled a little bit because I didn't know if it was serious or not, to be honest. And I was thinking to myself, all right, if he's involved in something like this, I'm sure there'll be some things, but you know, I don't know if it'll be too extreme. Turns out to be, I was completely wrong. This was as extreme as it gets with this guy, and it seemed like this guy really had a bad addiction to gambling, and now he's paying the price for it. He's facing a long time behind bars. Mizuhara is 39 years old. So, if he was to get the full sentence, he would be behind bars still. He was 72. So, yeah, it's just a baffling story. And I mean, what else can you say about this?
Yeah, like this story just kind of took a massive 180 in a way where, it was more of the pointing fingers, kind of who was to blame. But I pretty much was the minority. I mean, I don't know if I was in the minority, but a lot of people were just like, oh, Tani, he didn't know specifically where the money was going, which I do obviously understand because I still think that there is some stuff that he is undercovering, as you can say about him not knowing where the bank wire statement was going to. But I knew that this was more of an Ippei issue than Otani. I just thought personally that in the past you typically have a track record of yourself being in trouble and stuff like that, and Otani really never had that. So I just thought personally to me that when I saw this news, this is obviously pretty much he is screwed and he is fucked for life, pretty much. I mean, there's really no other explanation to it. When I saw this news a couple days ago, when we talked off air about it, we were just like, yeah, just uh, pleading guilty to bank and tax fraud about this. It just um, yeah, there's really nothing I can really much say besides that. I think with Otani too, I think it kind of affected his overall season to start the year. But we'll talk about Ohtani a little bit later. But he is just absolutely just turning back to kind of the Ohtani that we know and love. Just absolutely mashing baseballs left and right. And I think partly it's because his mindset is just now playing baseball. I think Ippei is just kind of now in the past with him. Even when they asked Ohtani during his press conference about all this type of stuff early on in the season, he pretty much was denying a lot of stuff specifically, and understandably so. You're obviously going to just face and tell the truth right away. Obviously there's probably some things that he didn't say that he's probably going to get penalized for, but he didn't want to make this clearly a distraction of him playing on the baseball field. So Ippei obviously, Ohtani essentially was one of his best friends, and now is all but broken apart. So that's pretty much all she said and wrote.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just reading through this article a little bit more. From November of 2021 to March of 2024. Again, this is coming from ABC. Mizuhara apparently transferred $17 million from the account to associates of the bookmaker that he was involved with in more than 40 wires without Otani's permission, and that's according to the plea agreement. And ABC also mentioned that Mizuhara um, admitted that in the plea agreement that he claims that his total taxable income for 2022 was $136,865, which was not even close to the actual amount. It was well, actually, in fact, he failed to report an additional $4.1 million in income. So Mizuhara took many steps to deceive Ohtani, and including changing contact information on the baseball players' bank accounts so
Hmm.
communication would come to Mizuhara. He even impersonated Ohtani on the phone with calls to the bank. He did that at least 24 times. That's also according to this plea agreement. So Mizuhara really was just a sleazeball. He was
Hmm.
just right up, and he was just doing this all behind Otani's back. Otani, and yeah, it's crazy to think about. While Otani's tearing it up on the baseball field, Mizuhara's tearing it up, gambling. Literally, his personal life and his professional life, he's tearing it up. And yeah, this guy really had some issues, and now
Hmm.
he's going to be paying the price for it. And yeah, like I said, it's just a crazy story. And yeah, it looks like this was all on Mizuhara. It's looking like Ohtani really didn't have much to do with this. So yeah, Mizuhara, his life is basically over, like you mentioned, and I I don't know if he would be. I guess he would be serving time in the U.S. I'm assuming if because this took place in
Yeah,
the United
probably.
States. So yeah, he's going to be lonely, isolated, and far away from home. Um, it's
Yep.
yeah. Let's hope that never happens to any of us,
Hmm.
or anybody we know in the future. So yeah,
Yep.
Mizuhara is gone. And now we're going to move on to our next topic, which revolves around the guy Mizuhara interpreted for so long, Shohei Ohtani. And as you said, if there was any question as to whether or not the Mizuhara allegations were going to affect Ohtani's play on the field, well, he has completely closed the door on that. Ohtani has taken off and has just completely dominated the league. And I'm looking at Major League Baseball's updated stats right now as of today, of the day of this recording, which is May 11th. Shohei Ohtani, he's leading the league in batting average with a 359 batting average. He's also leading the league in OPS with a 1.106 OPS. He is slugging 679, which
Oof.
is also tops in Major League Baseball. He has the third highest on base percentage in baseball at 427, behind only Mookie Betts, his teammate, and Juan Soto. And he also has 11 home runs, which is tied for third in the league, only with Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles, and he's only trailing Kyle Tucker of the Astros and Marcelo Zuna of the Braves. And I guess one thing that I wanted to ask, based on all these numbers, obviously it's only May 11th. We still got a ways to go in the season, but I mean, for God's sake, this guy, even with a torn UCL and his best friend and interpreter gone and facing significant jail time, nothing seems to phase this guy from killing a baseball. And obviously, Otani's already a two-time MVP. I mean, should he already be considered for a third this year? I mean, obviously, the big thing I think that's getting in the way of this is the fact that he's strictly a DH this year. He's not pitching this year. If he was pitching this year, I mean, I think it would already be like everybody would be saying, yes, absolutely, he's the MVP this year. But the fact that he's only going to be that he's only hitting this year, kind of, I think personally, it puts a little bit of a damper on things. And you know, Mookie still is having a phenomenal season as well. I personally, if I was a baseball writer, I still think I would lean towards Mookie because he got off to such a great start and he's still doing a great job. And I think his defense has helped out the Dodgers too. Um, I'm kind of ambivalent with giving an MVP award to a designated hitter. I understand DH is the way the game is now. People have called for universal DH for years before it was finally implemented in 2022. So, but I would definitely understand, Ohtani getting considered in this conversation for MVP. I definitely think he should be involved in the conversation. And like I said, we still got a ways to go in the season. But yeah, I mean, right, based on what you've seen, would you give Ohtani MVP consideration? Probably a silly question, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, uh, Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, the fact is that he went to a new team, and obviously, people would say, "Well, he went to a new team," but this is Shohei Ohtani we're talking about. It takes a while to be adjusted. I mean, yeah, he only went from one part of LA to the other, but just going from the American League to the National League, there's obviously a little bit of um, a difference, and you're playing now specifically, in terms of Otani, you're playing with all stars compared to what you have with the Angels. Obviously, Mike Trout obviously is there, but he was barely on the field. No offense to him, So it really was just Otani carrying the load for the Angels for most of his career, and now essentially for the Dodgers, it's like he's just now a piece to the puzzle where the Dodgers are trying to win another World Series. So, but yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, his stats currently right now are just Otani's stats that we shouldn't be surprised about. A 359 average, like you mentioned, a 427 OBP, and a 679 slug. Just absolutely just clobbering the baseball. And, you know, as a baseball fan, I think this is just, when he is on, it's one of the most pleasing sights to watch in baseball. Obviously you might say Aaron Judge. I mean, obviously I like watching Aaron Judge play, but for me, when Shohei Ohtani is just locked in, it's just absolutely insane to watch. And obviously this guy he is just one of a kind. Like you're mentioning in terms of like playing with the torn UCL, the Ippei stuff. They don't call him a unicorn for nothing. I mean, he's essentially just a guy that, you know, if it's for the Babe Ruth stuff, I mean, he is that in that trajectory in terms of just guys that we just don't see play, like in baseball anymore. And so like partly of me, this doesn't surprise me the way that, he's kind of tearing it up. I mean, obviously he had that really slow start, but that's kind of the early part of the season, the first couple weeks. Heck, I mean, Aaron Judge going off to a really slow start. He's now obviously kind of coming back to his own, and so, yeah, I think that he should be getting consideration. I mean, Mookie, obviously, as much as I love him, I think it's going to be kind of a race in the National League to see in terms of what happens. There's a lot of really good candidates right now, but we're only in May. So, obviously, we're going to have to kind of see, during the summer months, that's really kind of when the peak part of baseball really begins. But I don't really see Shohei Ohtani having an issue of being consistent in terms of overall stats this year. I mean, this guy is just that good. So, obviously he'll go through stretches where he is just not playing his best, but that's for pretty much a lot of guys. And even for the bad stretches that he plays, is probably better than half the players in the league. So, yeah, I think that he definitely should get considerations for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks relaxed. He actually looks more relaxed and comfortable or confident in as a
Yeah.
Dodger than he did
Yeah.
as an Angel. Because like you mentioned, when he was an Angel, he was carrying the bulk of the load. He was the one who was driving in all the runs on offense. Nobody else was doing anything for him. So now he's got the support of all-star calibers and future Hall of Famers such as Betts and Freeman, and he's standing out among the three of them. I mean, that big three in the top of your lineup has just taken off, and they've set the tone for a very dangerous Dodger lineup, probably the best lineup in all of Major League Baseball. And yeah, I mean, Ohtani literally eats and breathes baseball. We've mentioned this I don't know how many times now.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that he's taken off. And that little slump that he had at the beginning of the year, I think it only lasted like a week or something like that.
Yeah.
As soon as they got back from Seoul, and they made
Yeah,
their
that's right.
Dodger Stadium debut, and they started playing home games, Ohtani just took off, and he really hasn't looked back. And I don't know if he'll hit as high as 359 by
No.
season's end. It'll definitely go down, but I definitely think he'll put up another solid year in the power department. I expect him to hit anywhere between 45 and 50 home runs at minimum. I think, and I just think that he'll definitely. I think he's either going to finish. I think he's definitely going to finish in the top three in MVP voting this year, regardless.
Definitely.
The fact that without throwing a baseball on the mound. I think he's definitely going to finish either first, second, or third. I think him and Betts are definitely going to be in the top three. I think a Dodger is going to win the National League Most Valuable Player this year. For me, it's either Betts or Ohtani this year. I don't know if anybody else is going to sniff that award. And I mean, I picked Betts at the beginning of the year. Before the season started, he was my preseason pick for the NL MVP. So I'm not gonna shy away from that just yet, or I don't know. I don't think I ever will.
I picked Acuna, and he's been kind of on and off so far. So
Yeah,
but he might be a guy that it might just take a little while for him to get kind of locked in. Remember, he was one of the guys. There was a list of guys that didn't hit his first home run until like the early part of May. Like him, J Rod, a couple other guys. But he's just Ronald Acuna Jr. is just a 5-tool player that's a stud. So I'm not too worried just yet that my pick is gonna go down the drain.
It's very hard to repeat as MVP. Nobody's done it since Miguel Cabrera from 2012 to 2013.
Yep.
So it's rarefied air to win back-to-back MVPs. But Ohtani is making a case for it, and we'll see if he's able to achieve it this year. But the Ippei Mizuhara scandal is not affecting him whatsoever. If anything, that's probably a big relief to have that pushed to the side and having him out of his life and just not having to deal with him at all. And Ohtani is just embracing being a Dodger. And right now, the Dodgers sit comfortably in first place in the National League West, which I'm sure they will be in for the entire year.
Yep.
So
yeah. I don't really see much of an issue with the Dodgers. Falling behind, and Yamamoto's now starting to cook too. So of course they're becoming the Dodgers that we're not surprised about.
They will be fine, to say the least. And we'll talk about them and the rest of Major League Baseball at the end of the show. But now I want to move on to somebody who we really haven't talked about in this show, and we really need to. We have to give this guy some love. Shota Imanaga. Was he the best offseason move this year? Imanaga has been amazing so far to begin his major league career. Currently, as of the day of this recording, Imanaga is 5-0 with a 1.08 ERA, and he has pitched in 7 games so far. He's won 5. He's had 5 decisions. Like I said, he still doesn't have a loss. And I'm looking at his game logs on Baseball Reference, and they're very impressive. He struck out 9 in his first start of the season against the Rockies. Granted, it is the Rockies, so they're going to strike out against anybody.
Yeah.
But still, that's pretty impressive. He went 6 innings there, got the win. He only gave up 2 hits and struck out 3 in the game in an 8-1 win against the Dodgers. In the second game, he got the win. Oh, no, he didn't. He got a no decision. I'm sorry, in the second game against the Dodgers. He got his second win against the Mariners on April 13th. He got his third win of the season against the Marlins on April 21st. Got his fourth win against your Red Sox at Fenway Park on April 26th. And he got the win against the Mets at Citi Field on May 1st. So Imanaga is stacking up the wins. And like I said, his ERA is insane at just 1.08. When the Cubs made this move in the offseason, I went, all right, I really didn't know anything about Imanaga. And because obviously the big name that was in the offseason was in the pitching department was Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He dominated the headlines, and that's who everybody wanted. But Imanaga was kind of an afterthought, and the Cubs picked him up, and he has really helped bolster that starting rotation, which definitely needed some help. And yeah, Imanaga has been great. I mean, the fact that he's got a 1.08 ERA, and again, he came from Japan. It was absolute. It's been crazy, and it goes to show that a lot of these Japanese players, when they get to Major League Baseball, they're equally as good as as these major league players. That's always the main concern that people have when somebody comes from Japan to the United States. How are they going to fare against these big league pitchers or these big league hitters? And Imanaga's answered the call. He's gotten off to a great start. And if you were to choose a National League Cy Young Award winner, he'd probably be the front runner right now in that department. He's been that good. There's really no other way of saying it. I haven't seen him obviously pitch too much this year, obviously, because I just don't really see the Cubs. So, but yeah, I mean, good for Imanaga, good for the Cubs. So far it's looking like a pretty sweet deal. Obviously, I don't expect him to have a 1.0 ERA the rest of the year. I'm sure he's going to get smacked around a little bit, and he's going to get his first loss in Major League Baseball at some point. But the Cubs have gotten off to a pretty good start this year, and that can be attributed to their pitching. It's been pretty good, and Imanaga has been at the center of it all. And so, in terms of, is this the best offseason move? I personally wouldn't say it's the best offseason move. I think the best offseason move was probably getting Ohtani and getting them and having him say the money was deferred. That was probably the best offseason move. But in terms of an underrated offseason move, I would definitely rank this as an underrated move. And I think it should be getting more credit and more recognition than it deserves. And that's why I wanted to touch on this in this episode. But wanted to get your take on this.
Yeah. Imanaga obviously was somebody that the Red Sox were really interested in, and shame to our ownership for not paying up, because we gave him a pretty fair offer, I guess, in a way. I guess he rejected it, but I don't know if the Cubs were just more of an enticing place. I mean, obviously they obviously are looking the part right now. But this was really a guy that was on my radar for the offseason. I know that kind of Yamamoto, Ohtani, those are kind of really off limits for this team, especially with the way this Red Sox team is spending. But yeah, it would have been great to have a guy like this for sure in the rotation. Yeah, he has really good stuff, Ryan. I mean, when he pitched at Fenway, I did watch that game on MLB.TV, which I have, and just he doesn't throw really hard. He throws like around 91, 93 ish, kind of he tops around there, but his command is impeccable. He's a lot of throws a lot of strikes in the strike zone. He doesn't really get rattled a lot, especially guys are on base. He just goes and does his thing. He has a really good changeup, really good split finger fastball. So he really does a really good job of kind of combining his pitches and just locating really, really well. So, obviously, I'm going to try to hopefully watch more of his starts because his stuff is really, really good. And I think, obviously he's only given up 2 runs max out of all the starts that he's had so far. So he's doing really well. He's pitched a lot of really good teams, really good lineups as well. So, yeah, just really good stuff from him. And think about this too, Ryan. The Cubs don't even have Justin Steele right now, and he was supposed to be their essential ace. Imanaga is supposed to be their number 2, and he's essentially pitching like their number 1. So theoretically, the Cubs, they're really looking great right now. If Imanaga, obviously, like you mentioned, he's not going to have this overall whole entire season. Obviously, it's a bumps and bruises with a lot of guys. But if you can get some of like this overall production with even him pitching like this, and then you get Steele hopefully coming back pretty soon, the Cubs are going to be looking pretty good for the season, because typically you just decent 1-2 punch to kind of really kind of ride you out throughout the season, and that National League Central is just not that great. So you kind of look at that and kind of combine the two, and I think I had the Cubs in my projection. I think before the season, but I had them really high. Like I thought that the Cubs were going to have a pretty solid season. I mean, this guy's been awesome. And then the thing is too, Ryan, like, I don't know if you've seen like his stuff like off the field, but this guy just seems like a national treasure. I mean, this guy, after pitching against the Mets, saying, he was staying in a hotel, felt like he was like Spider-Man or something. I mean, he's just a guy specifically like you kind of look at and be like, I would love to have this guy on my team. So he just seems like he's just playing the part, living the life, having fun. And for a lot of Japanese guys, it's obviously sometimes just the jitters and stuff like that. This guy's just coming out and just, you know, going for it. And I think that's really, really awesome to see. So, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I'm within an hour from New York City. I don't know if the Cubs play the Yankees at all, but if the Cubs are playing the Yankees at the Bronx and he has a start, maybe I'll go see him, because this guy's definitely a guy that I think a lot of people should start to appreciate kind of the way he's been pitching right now, because it's been pretty impressive.
Well, everybody plays everybody nowadays. So the Yankees and the Cubs do meet, but they don't meet till September. And the Yankees are going to Wrigley Field instead of the Cubs coming to Yankee Stadium. The Cubs actually went to Yankee Stadium the past 2 seasons, so
Mm.
the Yankees head to Wrigley Field later on this year. But I'm actually just looking at Imanaga's Baseball Savant page, and I'm looking at his percentiles. So in ERA, he's in the 94th percentile. In the opponent's batting average against. He's in the 80th percentile, so very good in those categories. Fastball velo, he's in the 21st percentile, so not very good there. But
Yeah.
his chase percentage, 97th percentile, so very good there. Whiff percentage, 74th, so respectable there. K percentage, 76, pretty respectable there.
Yep.
96 in walk percentage. So, he's not walking anybody really. And yeah, I mean, really the only categories right now where he is considered poor are fastball velo, his ground ball percent, and his extension. And in the exit velocity, he's considered average, and his hard hit percentage, he's considered average. So he will get hit around. He will give up some hard contact here and there, but for the most part, it hasn't affected him, and he's been very good. He's been basically everything the Cubs could have hoped for. And, in a game nowadays where pitchers are just dropping down like flies with UCL injuries and flexor strains, here's this Japanese guy who hadn't thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball, just having fun and helping the Cubs win. And like you mentioned, he has a pretty fun personality. I remember the press conference when he was introduced.
Oh yeah.
He said, "Hey Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are going to win today."
That was awesome.
It was. I laughed. It was. He definitely seems like a funny dude, and he's been great. There's no other way of saying it. So good for Imanaga and good for the Cubs. And yeah, so that's that. And now we're gonna move on to the next topic that I have jotted down here. Hold on a sec while I just pull it up. This was a trade that happened a couple of days ago already. On I almost said Florida. The Miami Marlins. Remind you, this team made the playoffs last year. Probably shouldn't have, but they did. They traded away Luis Arraez. So the trade between the Marlins and the Padres. The Marlins traded Luis Arraez to the Padres last week, and in return, the Marlins got Nathan Martorella, outfielders Dylan Head and Jacob Marcy. Martorella is a first baseman, by the way, and the Marlins also got right-hander Woo Suk Go. I'm pretty sure that's. I'm fairly certain that's how you pronounce it. That's from Bleacher Report. And an executive even said the entire Marlins team is up for grabs already at this point. And this is classic Marlins. They have a good year, 1 year, the next year they blow it up. It's been this way since 1998, basically, because they won the World Series in '97 and they had a fire sale immediately the following year and blew up the whole team. And Arraez, some of his accolades speak for themselves. He's a 2-time batting champion. He finished 8th in the National League MVP voting last year. He set career highs in batting average at .354, 203 hits, 10 home runs. He's never been a power guy, and 69 runs batted in. And he also got his first career cycle last year on April 11th against the Phillies. And Arraez made his home debut, his Petco Park debut last night, and he got a walk-off single. As the
of course,
as the Padres beat the Dodgers. It's May 11th, as I've mentioned. So yesterday, as of this recording, was May 10th. So Arraez got a walk-off single against the Los Angeles Dodgers on May 10th to help give the team a 2-1 lead, and that put the Dodgers back over 500. I think for the first time since Game 2 of this season, or Game 2 or Game 3. I think after Game 3 of the season, because they split that series with the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken. And also, there's been a small demonstration of 10 people was organized to convey fan discontent with the direction of the Marlins franchise. So apparently, 10 people are demanding that Bruce Sherman sell the Marlins. Just what the Marlins need another ownership group sell. They sell their team prior to the 2018 season when that ownership group clears house, and now the fans want this ownership group to take a hike and to get another one in there just so that they could ruin the franchise. Um,
Yep.
it's absolutely absurd how the Marlins are already throwing in the towel. But I mean, for the Padres, I mean, what can you say? You gave up 4 guys who I don't know if any of these guys are that great. To be honest, I don't know any of these guys. I don't know if they really gave up. I don't know if they gave up anything really. But the president of baseball operations, Peter Bendix, said the team got an offer that we felt like we couldn't walk past for the long-term benefit of the organization. But and he also declined to call it the start of a rebuild for the Marlins, who are 10-30 and currently have the worst, which is currently, as of this day, the worst record in Major League Baseball. Yes, even worse than the Chicago White Sox and even worse than the Colorado Rockies. And we've completely roasted the White Sox the past couple of episodes on this show. So I guess the Marlins deserve a little roasting today. It's absolutely absurd that they've been this bad already. But at the same time, you can't be too surprised because they have no pitching whatsoever. They're without their ace Alcantara for the entire year. I mean, they just I think they just put Luzardo on the injured list, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's out right now. They don't have I'm trying to remember. There's
Braxton Garrett.
Yes, Braxton Garrett. He's not pitching right now.
Yuri Perez.
Yes, he's hurt. So while you can mock the Marlins all you want, there really is not much they can do from a pitching standpoint. And obviously you can't outslug everybody every night.
Right.
And the Marlins lineup, they have some notable hitters. I mean, obviously before they traded Arraez, they had him. They also have Josh Bell, who's okay, but is very, very streaky. He'll either be very hot or very cold. You obviously got Jazz, but I've never really been that crazy about Jazz, to be honest with you. I've never really been that impressed.
He's just he's very streaky and he can't stay on the field. I think that he has potential to be a really fun player, like if he's on the field consistently, because there's flashes. I'm like, whoa, this is a fun guy to watch. But he's just never kind of put the whole package together. That's just kind of one reason why I kind of feel that he might. He's a good player. I mean, I think it's the difference between a good player and a star is essentially just like the consistency and just your availability on the field. So I think I'll put Jags in kind of just that good to pretty good type of range. He's not really like the pretty good to elites. Per se. Yeah, no. He's I don't even the fact that I even said elite for him but still. But when you look at it, Ryan, and obviously, I'll let you obviously if there's anything else you want to say, by all means go ahead. But just this overall trade is AJ Preller. He just does not care about prospects. And the fact is, when I saw this overall trade, I was just like, is this a typo by any chance? Because I saw the Jeff Passan breaking sign. And it said the Marlins are trading Luis Arraez. I don't know if this has ever been like an earlier trade in a baseball season that I can remember. I mean, most of the time, if you're in like May, typically, right? Obviously, teams are you can kind of see how teams are doing, but then you see Bendick. Obviously, he's just like, we're not making the playoffs this year. I mean, dude, it's just like, yeah, obviously it hasn't been a great season for you, but you're just gonna just call it as it is now. I mean, yeah, I mean, look at teams like the Rockies and the A's. There's some teams that are White Sox. They're obviously awful, but like you're gonna just move, pretty much punt the season. I mean, essentially at this point in time. I mean, I do agree, obviously, though. I mean, they've been pretty snake bitten by the pitching department. I mean, obviously, without Luzardo, without Alcantara. Even though I like Alcantara, but the pitch clock really hurt him last year. He wasn't as sharp. in terms of this stuff. So it's still a big loss though for him. Yuri Perez and then Braxton Garrett. So literally most of their rotation, when healthy, is pretty much out. Um, I do think though some names still to watch out for the deadline for the Marlins though that I think could be appealing to some teams, including maybe some of our teams. Josh Bell, because obviously first base for Tristan Casas on the 60-day. He could definitely present some versatility, and I think that he's been a kind of a guy on my radar for a long time. Even though that he's not a flashy name per se, I think that he could definitely give us a lot of versatility, especially him. And maybe if they keep around Garrett Cooper, who I'm not highly on, but anything to get Bobby Dahlbeck to play consistent at bats at the major league level, I just really that's really all I ask for. Tanner Scott is another name, Ryan. I mean, I don't know if you guys are looking for a left reliever, but this guy actually has pretty good stuff. And so obviously that might be another guy to kind of watch out for on the market. Jazz Chisholm. I wouldn't rule out Luzardo because I know that there was obviously some talks this past offseason that he could be potentially listening to some offers. And then maybe probably some other names that I'm maybe missing here. Let me just take a look really quickly at their roster. Maybe they get some calls for Jesus Sanchez, De La Cruz, Jake Berger. Was another guy I was going to say. Jake Berger is probably going to be on the move as well too. So I mean, it's pretty much going to be a full-on blown fire sale. And I mean, trading Luis Arraez, arguably your best player, even though that he wasn't great to start with the Marlins, but then obviously he goes to nutrient the scenery, is just tearing it up. Like essentially that this season with the Marlins with him was nothing. I guess he just took it personally, just like, yeah, screw you guys. I'm going to a place that's not going to be competitive, and he's done that so far.
Yeah, he made his debut with the Padres against the Diamondbacks a couple of days ago, and I think he recorded 3 or 4 hits, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously, well, I don't know about obviously, but as a Yankee fan, this was a pain in the butt to hear because Gleyber Torres has been absolutely horrible so far this year. He's done absolutely nothing, and the fans are kind of getting, and us fans are kind of getting restless. If he's still not producing, by the deadline, we were kind of hoping that Arraez would be available, and here we are at the beginning of May, and he's already gone. He's already been traded, and he's already been traded to the Padres. And the Padres, even though we got Juan Soto from them, so thanks to them for that. But they've also taken away Wandy Peralta from us earlier in the offseason to sign him to that very generous contract, which I don't blame Peralta for taking at all. I would have taken that too.
Right.
And now they've taken Luis Arraez, which only helps out their offense. I mean, Arraez is not as good as Juan Soto, but he can sure as hell hit. And Arraez definitely helps out that San Diego lineup now, which has adding Arraez to that lineup for the Padres definitely helps fill a hole in a way. I don't know if it completely fills the gap that Soto left behind, but it definitely fills a good portion of it, if you ask me. And, now that he's in the lineup with guys like Bogarts and Machado and Tatis, that can only help out that offense. And what we've mentioned before, that offense really struggled last year. It was a major disappointment for them last year. So, it's a good move for the Padres. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And like you said, they basically hate prospects at this point. So they're kind of in the win now phase. They're trying to get a championship any way they can within the next couple of years before I think they start facing some tough decisions down the road. But yeah, I mean, I really would have loved to have been involved with some talks for Luis Arraez. I would have loved for my team to have been in talks with Luis Arraez as the trade deadline had approached, because I don't know if I can take another couple of more weeks of Gleyber swinging out of his shoes because it's getting really old really fast. And Torres is also on a contract here, and he's not doing himself any favors whatsoever with the way he's playing right now. And he's really like the only guy in the Yankee lineup who hasn't done anything this whole season so far. Everybody else has done something and has contributed something to the year. But I think Torres has had one good game this year, like against Milwaukee. Other than that, like he hasn't done anything. And it's getting concerning. It really is. And his defense, I mean, Arraez isn't that great at defense either. But I was about to say Torres' defense has also been killing the Yankees as well. But Arraez is mostly known for his offense rather than his defense. So it wouldn't necessarily help in that category, but it definitely would have helped at the plate. But it is what it is. Arraez is a Padre, and the Marlins looks like it's going to be another long year for them in their kind of weird history. If you ask me, Marlins are one of the weirdest franchises, if you ask me, because they'll have 2 world championships, but they have all this mediocrity and so much terribleness to add to it as well. But yeah, Luis Arraez is a Padre, and I think he definitely fits in well with that clubhouse. Though I think he's gonna have fun in San Diego, and I think the fans are gonna love him too. And he sure as hell looks like he was having a blast when he hit that walk-off single against the Dodgers. So that's that. And now we're just gonna go around the league to wrap up this episode. So I'm just going to quickly go over the Major League standings as of the end of this week. So, as I mentioned, it's a Saturday as of this recording. So, looking around the league, currently in the American League East, the Baltimore Orioles lead the division by half a game. My Yankees are in second at 26-14. Your Red Sox are in third at 500, 19-19. So, they've come back down to earth a little bit. They've lost 3 in a row. Tampa's in fourth at 19-20. And the Blue Jays, who have been a major disappointment this year, who can't hit to save their life, they're 17-21, sitting in last in the American League East. Sorry, Vladdy.
Yeah, how's that movie going? I just heard all about this great movie that's been going on, and I can't see it. Maybe the credits are just dark black. We just don't know in terms of when it's going to be coming on.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I think Vladdy's got talent, but he's not his father. I find Vladdy to be overrated, to be honest with you. I find him to be very overrated. I find a lot of guys on that Blue Jay team to be overrated, to be honest.
Bichette? Yeah.
Bichette, rough year. I mean, Bichette, I think he only has like 1 more year. I think he has this year and next year under club control, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's a free agent in 26. If I'm not mistaken. So.
Oh yeah, and we also have to talk about Alek Manoah having a start coming back and got it absolutely just clobbered. I don't know if I've ever seen a downfall of a pitcher in recent memory than Alek Manoah. If you remember, 2-3 years ago, the Red Sox could not hit this guy for you know what. I mean, this guy just we couldn't hit him, and now obviously he's turned into. I don't know what in the world happened. If it's just, I don't know. We might not ever know. I mean, he was struggling last year in the league that essentially everybody gets down for. He was in AAA. He was doing not great there. The developmental league. Sorry, I was trying to remember what it was, and he was getting his doors blown off against single A guys. So just but you know what? It couldn't happen to more between the Rays and the Jays. It couldn't happen to 2 more nicer fan bases who essentially have not won much, but then they talk so much highly of them after a couple years, kind of being the AL East. So it's kind of a little calmer in a way, Ron.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Yankee and Red Sox fans don't really agree on much, but we can both agree that Rays and the Jays are very annoying. And anytime that they stink, it's pretty nice to see. And I mean, I've seen pitchers fall off a cliff before, but to the extent and how quickly Manoah's fallen off is very rare. That's rarefied air. And a part of me, in a way, kind of feels bad because I did think he had elite stuff. But then at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, what am I talking about here?
For him talking smack so much at Fenway over the course of the years, shoving it up our ass, I do not feel bad for him. I'm sorry.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't him and Verdugo have a little bit of beef?
Yep. Bobby Dahlbeck. He was chirping at Bobby Dahlbeck of all guys. And I'm just like, bro, take it on Bob, bro. Like, you're like doing this. He just acted like he was like all tough and all this crap, was on the mound. I mean, yeah, obviously he has that bulldog mentality. And obviously he was mic'd up in the All-Star game. Yeah, he was an All-Star, right, a couple years ago. I even forget about it. He was pitching an All-Star game at Coors Field. And I mean, he just completely shoved up. He was mic'd up. I'm just like, damn, this guy is gonna be he's gonna be a stud for years to come, even though we're gonna hate it. And then like last year, he just had one bad year. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? And now he could like barely just get in the rotation for the Blue Jays with Gossman, Bassett, Kikuchi. He's now like number 4 or 5, which is crazy, but it happens.
Yeah, unfortunately it does. And I definitely think the pitch clock did not help its cause. And I definitely think that leads to him getting fatigued much more quicker than other pitchers around the league. I mean, there was talk that he needed to get in better shape for the pitch clock once it was implemented, which he took personally and kind of, I forget who said that exactly, but whoever said that, he basically went like, "Screw you! I'm good enough. I can, shut anybody out on any given day." And he hasn't been able to back that up, unfortunately. And for the Blue Jays, I mean, it could be a big what if. What if he was as advertised as he had been the past couple of years, and he actually stayed consistent? But
Mm.
we'll never know. I don't really care where the Blue Jays end up this year, as long as it's not first or anywhere in a playoff picture. At the end of the day. So that's that. The American League Central Guardians lead the division by half a game. The Twins have picked themselves up. The Twins had won, I believe, 12 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Last week, you guys actually broke up their win streak. It was the longest win streak by a Twins team, I believe, since 2008, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a long time since they had a long winning streak like that. But you guys broke it up. But now the Twins have won 3 more in a row, so they're back in the thick of things. They're 23-15, so they're 8 games over 500 now, and just a half game behind Cleveland. Kansas City's just a half game behind as well at 24-16. So the Royals have been playing very well. Tigers have cooled off significantly. They were swept over the weekend. They were swept the previous weekend by the Yankees, and they just dropped the first game of a series to the Astros last night on May 10th. So they're back to 500 at 19-19. They have some good pitching, but they can't hit at all. They really can't.
No.
And watching Javi Baez try and hit is embarrassing. It's honestly infuriating, to be honest with you.
It's they talk about a downfall. This guy used to be one of the best players in baseball, and now he's just making a fool out of himself. He really is.
It's like It's like he forgot how to hit. It really is like he forgot how to hit. His swings are not even competitive.
Yeah. No, you throw just outside sliders. I think he'll swing at every single one of them.
Don't throw anything don't throw a fastball. Just throw off speed. He will swing. Don't like.
Yeah.
I don't know why pitchers still try and sometimes throw a strike, throw balls. Seriously, he will swing. But yeah, the Tigers at 19-19 are in 4th, and then there's the other Chicago team sitting in dead last at 11-28. But they've won 3 in a row though, and they're not the worst team in baseball right now. So good for the White Sox, a little positive there. In the American League West right now, the defending world champion Rangers lead the charge at 22-18. They are half a game over Seattle, who are 21-18. The A's have come down to earth a little bit. They've dropped to 4 back at 18-22. They suffered some pretty crushing losses to the Rangers this week. They had I believe a 4-game set, or I forget if it was 3 or 4 games this week, but they had in the game on Tuesday or Monday. I think it was Tuesday night, if I'm not mistaken. They had a 2-0 lead going into in the top of the 8th inning. And Corey Seager hit a go-ahead and eventually game-winning 3-run home run off of I forget one of the A's pitchers' names. I'm bad with names on the A's besides Mason Miller and some of their offensive players. But Corey Seager basically just flipped the script and propelled the Rangers to a victory. And the Rangers pretty much dominated the A's the rest of that series. So the A's have kind of come back down to earth. The struggling Astros are 10 games under at 14-24. They have had a hard time. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees this week, which I'm obviously happy about. I wanted the season sweep though, but I can't really complain to going 6-1 against them. But they did take the last game of that series, and they did take the first game of the series against the Tigers. So they're trying to claw out of this deep hole that they've dug for themselves, 7 games back. And then there are the god-awful Angels at 14-25 in last place. Stop bringing Carlos Estevez in to pitch the 9th inning. Stop it, please. Every freaking time he comes into the 9th inning, he blows the save. He always gives up a home run. Please stop bringing him in the game. I'm begging you. He did it again last night against the Royals. Gave up a go-ahead 2-run home run in the top of the 9th inning to blow the save for the Angels. The Angels lost the game 2-1. Granted, the Angels have a horrible offense without Trout, so can't really put all of the blame on Estevez, but you can put a good chunk of it because he's been blowing saves a lot recently for the Angels. So that's that. In the National League East, the Phillies are off to a very good start this year at 27-12. The Braves are right behind them at 23-12, 2 games back. Nats over 500 at 19-18 in 3rd place. The Mets have cooled off again. They are 18-19 in 4th. And then there's the Marlins, which we've already talked about.
Yep.
They are 10-30, by the way. 20 games under 500 on May 11th.
Oh, yikes.
Yes. National League Central, Brewers lead the charge at 23-15. Cubs are behind them at 23-16. So a lot of tight races around the divisions so far at the start of the season. The Reds have fallen off a cliff at 17-21. They've lost. They finally ended their losing streak last night, but they had lost 7 in a row. Got their asses kicked by the Orioles last weekend, and the Reds have just not been playing well at all. So the changing of the months has done more harm than good for them. The Pirates are at 17-22. Today, actually, is a pretty significant day for the Pirates because Paul Skeens made his major league debut. A lot of expectations for this kid. This kid has got some filthy, filthy stuff. He apparently is like the starting version of Mason Miller, if I heard correctly. He can throw like 100 to 103 miles an hour consistently. A lot of expectations for this kid, so it should be an interesting day to watch in Pittsburgh. So keep an eye out.
And Justin Steele comes back today too for the Cubs.
Oh, so it's Steele against Skeens, huh?
Yeah, I might have to tune in for that.
It should be an interesting pitching matchup. We'll be looking forward to that. So yeah, that's definitely an intriguing matchup. And then the Cardinals, who are having another rough year, 15-23, 8 back, have lost 6 in a row. God almighty, have the Redbirds died.
What has happened to Paul Goldschmidt, Ryan? This is a guy, too. I mean, he might be getting older, but
this one might be 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's batting 190, 2 homers, 11 RBIs. Yeah. So, and he's supposed to be a free agent this year. Between him and Pete Alonso, both guys that are just not having good stats, trying to get paychecks, it's not going to be too great for them.
No, not at all.
Right now. So,
brutal.
Yeah, the Cardinals are just looking god awful. I'm not surprised though.
It's honestly sad. The Cardinals are a team that obviously I'm not a Cardinal fan, but I've always admired, how they've run their organization, and it's a great baseball town. Their fans are great, and they're always respectable year after year. And to see them look like this, it's kind of shocking. It's something you're not really used to. Obviously, the Cardinals had a rare last place finish last year, and it looks like it could be that again this year. I mean, it's pretty bad there right now. Really bad. So that's Central. And finally, the National League West. Dodgers, 26-14. No surprise there. They lead the charge. Padres did walk them off last night, though. So the Padres are back over 500 at 21-20. I think the Padres will start to take off a little bit with the addition of Arraez. I think they'll start to put it together, and I think they'll eventually start to play better. The Diamondbacks, big disappointment so far at the start of the season, 18-21 in 3rd. Giants, 17-23 are in 4th, and then of course the pathetic Rockies in the last at 10-28 in last place. They've won 2 in a row though, so good for them. So yeah, that's basically what's going on around the league. I don't know if you wanted to touch on anything else before we sign off.
Yeah, my Red Sox weekly report last week, it was pretty good vibes. And obviously I haven't been watching them as much. It's kind of been more in the background for me because I've been focused more on the Bruins and Celtics. But they are pretty much going back to what I unfortunately became them seen. They're back to having a lot of injuries. Garrett Cooper and Dominic Smith are really not doing much. We're trying to play Tristan Casas, even though Alex Gordon said yesterday that Casas is feeling better. Um, they lost yesterday to the Nationals. The Nationals are very middling, but maybe that's just us now. They lost 2-3 to the Twins. They can't hit. We can't hit essentially now, Ryan. This offense essentially is kind of getting a little boring. Just trying to rely on the long ball. The pitching's just pitching their asses off. Brian Bayo is coming back on Sunday, so I am happy about that. Nick Pivetta came back on Tuesday against Atlanta, did not pitch well, but I'm going to kind of take him a pass because hasn't pitched since early April. Garrett Whitlock is supposed to be coming back too. He threw a BP last night. So, I mean, pitching wise, it's been good. Hitting wise, it has been awful. Von Grissom has been in the lineup, and so far, early impressions, it's been so far. I mean, I do feel like he'll be okay. But Chris Sale pitched against us on Wednesday and shoved it in our ass. So I'm happy for Chris, but yeah, this Sox team, man, it's gonna be going spiraling pretty quick. Unfortunately, they're back. They're at 19-19. The Orioles are a better team. The Yankees are a better team, sadly. So. Yeah, it's really just my baseball report for this week. I'm not trying to go on the full rant at this point in time because this is kind of the way I kind of saw them coming into this season. So I really they can't really hurt me anymore. It's just kind of I'm just accustomed to this. But they have the Nationals for 2 more this weekend, and then they got the Rays. The Rays have been so far, but knowing us, they'll probably shut us out for a lot next week. And then we got the Cardinals. Speaking of the Cardinals, so maybe we have a better week next week. I mean, I don't think we're the Marlins bad, and we're not like the Rockies bad and the White Sox bad,
No.
but we're just kind of just the middling and the mix type of thing. So it's really just like last year all over again. One week you feel like you're on top of the world, the next week it's like, oh my god, we got to watch this baseball team. So that's my baseball report.
Well, that's the way it typically goes for a lot of teams. Baseball is a season of ups and downs. It's a long marathon. So I'm sure there are going to be times this season where I'm going to feel the same way about my Yankees, even though I can't really complain too much right now. I'm sure there are going to be some struggles coming up along the way. So I'm trying not to I never try and get too cocky during the season because anything can happen. It's just
Judge at least has looked better for you guys. Something,
yes.
I think maybe that ejection, which we did not talk about really today, but he got ejected for the first time in his career. And I guess it was the Michael Jordan meme of I took it personally because ever since then he is just going off, which is obviously good for you guys.
I didn't really care that much about the ejection, to be honest with you. It is seriously, a lot of people get ejected. So I understand it's Aaron Judge, and he's like one of the nicest guys in baseball. So it was a little surprising, but what are you going to do? I really didn't I didn't really care that much about it. But yeah, we're kind of out of time here. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Tune in to next week for episode number 32 of Hitting for the Cycle. We'll see what's going on around then. Until then, on behalf of Ben Kruse, I'm Ryan Touhey. Take care.